It's always one bullet. It's always one word, one action that just snowballs into revolutions and change.
We want to be your voice, and we'll do whatever it takes, and we stand by your side.
This can be that spark where the hope actually turns to belief.
If you asked me, should Trump endorse Prince Reza Pahlavi? My answer would be an emphatic no. Emphatic no. Why does Prince Reza Pahlavi need an endorsement from a foreigner?
We will be your voice, don't worry. We are here until last of us.
Everybody with different political beliefs, they know that we must be united. Otherwise, there won't be any success to this.
Hi there, this is episode 425 of Roqe, and today we start with a warning. There is a trend afoot that risks undermining everything those who care about democracy and freedom have worked towards in Iran and beyond. In the West, Gen Z is getting the Islamic Republic dangerously wrong. Now, sadly, this is not speculation for an opening essay. This comes with stats. A new poll reported by the National Post last week suggests that roughly 1 in 5 Gen Z Canadians express support for the Islamic Republic regime. 1 in 5. Let that land. Not an anti-war position, not no kings. Support for the regime. Take a breath. Because we're not talking about a misunderstood government. We're not talking about a flawed democracy. We're talking about a regime that executes protesters, jails teenagers for dissent, imprisons journalists, criminalizes homosexuality, and violently suppresses citizens for demanding basic rights and autonomy. A regime that has killed thousands of young Iranians in the streets this year. And yet, here we are. 20% of Gen Z in Canada with the regime. Gen Z is getting the Islamic Republic dangerously wrong. Now, this is not a complicated moral puzzle. This is one of the clearest examples in the world today of an authoritarian regime versus a population demanding freedom. And still, a portion of young people in a country like Canada are getting it completely wrong. Why? Well, certainly disinformation plays a role. A steady stream of narratives that recast the Islamic Republic not as a brutal theocracy, but as some kind of anti-Western resistance, a regime reframed as a victim, a dictatorship rebranded as defiance, Islamists as progressive heroes. And if you hear that version of the story enough times on TikTok, on Instagram, in certain activist spaces, in a lecture hall, even echoed in parts of Western media, eventually truth gets distorted and moral clarity disappears. Gen Z is getting the Islamic Republic dangerously wrong. Now, we must also ask why a regime that stands against so many of the very values Gen Z claims to hold is being reframed in a way that makes it acceptable. Because some of this is not just misinformation, it is ideological filtering. It is choosing a story that feels familiar even when it contradicts the facts. And this is dangerous and abandons the very people inside a dictatorship who are risking everything for freedom, including Iran's own Gen Z, a generation that has been leading the protests, that has been beaten and imprisoned and killed for demanding the very rights that Canadian Gen Z already has. Think about that. Young people in Iran risking their lives for freedom, while some young people in Canada are supporting the system oppressing them. Consider this a warning. If this level of confusion, this level of disinformation can take hold here, then we have a lot of work to do to tell the truth, to amplify the voices of Iranians, to challenge narratives that sanitize brutality. Otherwise, we risk losing the future. Gen Z is getting the Islamic Republic dangerously wrong. It's March 26, 2026. This is Roqe. Welcome to episode 425 of Roqe, Iran Rises. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam dostan aziz, durud bar shoma. Hope you are doing okay wherever you're tuning in from around the world. This is the 22nd episode in our Iran Rises series, this one entitled Washington is Calling. Now, once again, events inside Iran and around the Iranian diaspora are moving at breakneck speed. So we should note that we are recording this episode at approximately 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in Toronto on this Thursday, March 26th. That's around midnight in Iran. And as always, we're sharing perspectives and conversations as up to date as humanly possible. Now, coming up on this 425th edition of Roqe, we're on the precipice of a massive rally that has been called for this Sunday in Washington, D.C. in support of the Iranian Lion and Sun Revolution. I'm going to be joined by 4 panelists and organizers in 3 different cities who will be joining us in D.C. this weekend as well. They're going to talk about the importance of this demonstration and the hopes for what can come of it. But first, one of our favorite guests who always generates a lot of response from our audience who either love him or are triggered by him, Bijan Kian, joins us to break down what is really happening in this war, whether Washington has a strategy or is improvising in real time, and what all of this could mean for the future of Iran and a free Iran. Let's get to it. This episode of Roqe is brought to you with the support of FamLuxy. FamLuxy is a cultural fashion platform dedicated to supporting and showcasing independent Iranian artists. At a time when Iranian voices and creativity face unprecedented challenges, FamLuxy stands as a bridge, bringing the spirit of Iranian craftsmanship to the world. In 2023, FamLuxy introduced its exclusive collection, Glory Days, at New York Fashion Week, featuring the King and Queen line, an artistic tribute to 2,500 years of Iranian imperial heritage and the timeless strength of our culture. Today, in solidarity with the Iranian freedom movement, the entire Glory Days collection is offered at cost price with a 40% discount using the code Roqe. Go to famluxy.com and use the code Roqe. Famluxy.com and use the code ROQE to get your Glory Days Iran clothing at cost. Thanks to FamLuxy for honoring heritage, amplifying art, and standing with Iran. All right, let me get to our featured guest for this edition of Roqe. He is an experienced Iranian-American global business leader, a former U.S. senior official with over 30 years of experience across public, private, and nonprofit sectors. Twice confirmed by the U.S. Senate, he served in senior roles under the 43rd, 44th, and 45th presidents and chaired the audit committee for a U.S. government agency. He obtained his education from Brighton, Harvard, Oxford, and MIT, and he has lectured at top institutions such as National Defense University, George Washington U, Georgetown, American University, and UBC, to name a few. Joining me from the Los Angeles area, one of our favorites, hello, Bijan Kian.
Hello, Jian, and greetings to your viewers and listeners. Around this time of the year, we usually come and say Happy Nowruz. This year, it's hard to say that. We lost dear children this past year, and we don't say Happy New Year. We just say Nowruz, Piruz, victory at Nowruz. Now, that's not just a saying. It looks like it's happening. And good time to be with you and talk to you and have an exchange of thoughts on what's going on.
Nowruz, Piruz to you, to Bijan and your dear family and friends. And I appreciate you making the time for this today. Let me start with an omnibus, a general kind of question. What is most top of mind for you today when you woke up this morning, about 1 month into this war with the U.S. and Israel and the Islamic Republic regime?
A constant and persistent belief that people are going to be victorious here.
That's top of mind.
That's the thought, the belief. You see, Jian, I don't look at this river of events because it changes before I can make up my mind as to what I'm looking at. So instead, I focus on the destination and I keep my mind focused with a full belief. I have no doubt. And that makes me take my mental steps towards that goal, towards that destination. And that destination is a ballot box. So that's I see that coming.
Let me
escape, and we'll talk about it today.
Bijan, let me reframe it and ask it to you this way. Last night I turned on the television in prime time, and on CNN there were a parade of quote unquote experts giving reasons why the United States is losing this war, hasn't accomplished its mission, the regime is still in power, billions of dollars spent, some lives lost, etc., etc. And then I turned to Fox News, and there was an inverse narrative that said Iran is losing this, or the Islamic Republic is losing this war. The U.S. is accomplishing its missions, and even creating the conditions where there could be a potential regime change when the people inside Iran rise. So, which one of these competing narratives is closer to the truth in your view?
I recommend you watch Al Jazeera. You know, the countries in the Persian Gulf region are extremely cautious. Their culture determines that cautious approach in everything, especially in politics. They're always concerned that what if things don't turn out one way or the other? We should always stay right in the middle. And when you hear Al Jazeera, which is a little different from CNN and Fox, say that the American military progress is definitely visible, measurable, and when they say that, it's a good evidence that that's how you reconcile the conflict. But you know, you don't have to do it in that way. Ask yourself the question: why is it that the aircraft, all kinds of aircraft, are flying freely in the Iranian sky? Don't they have some kind of an air defense? Don't they have all these missiles that apparently they have them all hidden in the mountains and they're impossible to reach? And um, why? Why is that happening? What is that a sign of? The air power over the Iranian sky, which is supposed to be controlled by the Islamic Republic, is wide open. How do you answer that question? You know, I believe the United States is winning not only in the military sense, but also winning in the diplomatic sense. Look at how President Trump is dragging this dialogue, this negotiations into, he's very patiently wearing down the patience and the balance of the opponent. I really can't find a reason to support the notion that America is losing. In what way? In what way? How is America losing? Trump says they don't have an Air Force, they don't have a Navy. I mean, do you see a Navy? Do you see Air Force active? I mean, it's always good to investigate your mind independently, because these days I think the media is justifiably less trusted than it was. I think you would agree with me
So
that
I think if I can try and remember what as I said, the so-called experts were saying last night in terms of the argument for why the U.S. is losing this war, it would be something along the lines of they haven't completely got rid of the nuclear war capabilities, the uranium mines, and all of that. So there hasn't been a full defanging of the military and capabilities of the Islamic Republic regime. That the regime is still in power, and that Trump is getting cold feet and looking for an exit strategy, for which he'll declare victory, but will be leaving essentially something closer to a failed state with the same regime in power. That would be the argument that we're hearing, the narrative we're hearing on CNN. To that, you say what?
but you see, Jian, I think if you look at something that is important but not completely relevant, and you miss something that is important, persistent, and won't go away. All of these discussions about who's ahead and the projection of power and the claims, first of all, let's do one thing. Let's separate posturing, which is a claim that doesn't need any particular evidence, and actionable capacity. There are two different things. If you look at Islamic Republic posturing, you say, yeah, look at the claims they're making. They're winning by the claims, by posturing. But if you look at the actionable reality, you see the opposite. Where you're not looking is where the most important element for this assessment is existing. That is not a war between the Islamic Republic, United States, and Israel on the other side. but a war between the Islamic Republic as a failed institution and its people. That's the real war. When you look at that, you look at, we've talked about this, a lot of times before, that there was a survey conducted by the Ministry of Guidance of Islamic Republic. This is a body an organ of the government, and they came out and said, our survey shows that more than 80% of Iranians don't want this regime, Islamic Republic in Iran. Now, let's just fast forward to killing
Yeah.
tens of
That was
thousands.
before the massacres. Yeah, yeah.
So after the massacre, this war is not endable. There is no end to this war. It has only one victory, and that is mothers who will not forgive this government for killing their children. That's the endurable. That's the enduring fact that's not going to go away. So let's say in the very unlikely, and we will explain why I say unlikely, um, President Trump is not able to get the budget. He stops this military operation, which would make a lot of lobbyists very happy because they'd be spending a lot of money, Jian, and I see that flow. I see all of that activity
Yeah.
to end this military operation on behalf of the Islamic Republic. All of this, various conferences are put together, various campaigns are starting. There's a whole avalanche of activity to stop the military operation, for whatever reason. But this regime, and there's a reason I call it the regime, because this is not a normal government governing over people who want a normal life. This is a regime. And yes, you guessed it right. It's a sign of illegitimacy when you call it the regime, apart from regulatory regimes that we use that word. But a regime is essentially a government that lacks legitimacy. That's the fight. Let's talk about that. If that is not ever going to go away, then the question becomes, let's take another likely scenario that somebody remains in power and just continues killing people to stay in power. How long is that sustainable?
Yeah.
How long is that going to go on? You kill everybody that
Yeah.
is against you, you'll be left with nobody.
I,
Who
I,
you gonna rule?
if I
Who
if
you
I
gonna rule?
if I may, I fully agree with you in terms of that, and I did it my opening essay on Monday with this exact sort of thesis, saying that the regime's days are numbered. No matter how you see this, the conditions for which this revolution began, those Bazaris in late December that came out, a crippled economy, a devalued currency, no electricity, no water, an oppressive regime that people are tired of, all of those conditions still exist. They're just worse. And they've now presided over massacres of people in bigger numbers than ever before in the last 47 years. I think so I don't think we should be day traders about this, get hopped up and down, based on what the morning headlines are that are, of course, fed to create that kind of anxiety. And we should see the big picture. That said, I think one of the complicating factors is President Trump, who throws these little bits of these quotes here and there on Air Force One behind a microphone here that then create 24-hour news cycles around that and create anxiety or not. Now, you're one of the people literally in my life that knows this president better than almost anybody. You know him personally. You've worked for him. You've had a chance to kind of understand him, I think. So the question mark is always, does he not know what he's doing, as the narrative has been, even amongst some Iranian pundits? You've seen them saying, oh, he's making this up as it goes along, etc. Or that he's somehow, this is calculated ambiguity and he's playing 4D chess with the world. How do you see it? You know the man.
Yeah, first of all, I know him a little bit, and I'm always concerned that there's no exaggeration in my capacity or capabilities. I do know him a little bit, and I do know him in one sense that I can talk about with confidence, and that is his style and his taste for plans. Let me explain this to you. President Trump does not like to be given a menu. President Trump would like to have a table. Now, in defense uh, terminology, you talk about setting the table, meaning preparing options. President Trump doesn't like to be given a menu and said, these are our items today. Which one would you like? President Trump likes to have a table with everything on it, every possible thing that he could want on the table. Sounds very difficult. Not very many people can do that. It always has consequences, budget, resources, limitations, political implications, the optics, as they call it. But to President Trump, this is not an issue. We have seen that time after time. When he feels resistance to what he wants, he doubles down, puts his foot down, and gets it done. So what you see is when somebody says, well, President Trump doesn't know what he wants or what he wants to do. That is partially true because President Trump would like to have the option to look at that set table, reach for something, lift it up as if he wants to choose it, and then puts it down and says, no, I don't want that. I want something else. Meaning what? Meaning that President Trump's instructions for viable plans, plans that he would like, allow that plan to be changed in the last day, in the last hour, in the last minute, and in the last second. Now just imagine this situation. The reason he doesn't commit, he always talks from both sides of his mouth. He would say, yeah, this, who knows? We'll see. We want to do this. So I've decided to make things easier for myself to understand, even following his directions. I mean, people would make sure they understand his goal. Make sure they don't focus on ways of reaching that goal.
And what do you believe?
You to know that.
What do you believe his goal is now? I mean, this is the billion-dollar question, right? Is he going to see this through the way that most Iranians, if not all, inside Iran and out, want to see this through to a point where the regime is so weakened that the Iranian people can actually rise and take control of this country and lead to a democratic, secular Iran, etc.? Or is his goal to defang the Islamic Republic military to the point where they already have and maybe exit because people are getting antsy about oil prices and the cost of this and potential American lives lost?
The only way, the only acceptable and sustainable solution here is for the scenario you just described. The oppressive forces inside Iran, the Islamic Republic, in Iran, because it's an entity, it's a 47-year-old criminal entity living in a thousands of years old civilization, one of the greatest civilizations in human history. So we have to distinguish the two. What is his goal? His goal is to achieve a state where the people of Iran are not suffering under this regime. Countries in the Persian Gulf region are not suffering under this regime, and the threat that the Islamic Republic, through its proxies and other arms around the world, stop operating, we live in a safer world, and that's good for the United States national security. None of those center on things that relate to the people of Iran and what they want so far. It's just that he wants a stable environment, and you cannot have a stable environment when a government is killing its own people. You cannot have that. It's gonna fall. It's gonna be problematic. It's gonna be headed towards that failed state that you elegantly talked about. So that's his goal. His goal is to remove this threat. How he gets there cannot be determined, because he continuously changes his mind, gives another 5 days of extension, and how he's going to achieve that goal is something very fluid. He's not going to tell you how he's going to do it. However, the real component is the people of Iran. And I have things to tell you because I talked to them. People of Iran have never been as united as they are, as determined to topple this regime. And that's the reality. President Trump understands that. He's a little bit shy of talking about the intention to take the responsibility of changing this regime and replacing it. But sometimes he talks about it in terms of, well, it's my decision. I got to pick the guy who's going to run the country and so forth, which confuses everybody. But, I think he knows exactly what buttons to push to confuse all of the people who are trying to figure out his next move. Well, the truth is, he doesn't know his next move. He will determine his next move in the last second, the last opportunity to do that. Now, you want to forecast because, I rarely forecast anything, especially if it's about the future, because we truly cannot see one future. There are many futures. We could imagine them, we could prepare for them, but certainly no crystal ball. So the goal is to remove this threat, and that interprets to a regime change. You've heard him say many times that there has been a regime change effectively inside Iran, and I think that's a reasonable thing to say. The regime we knew as Islamic Republic in Iran.
Wait. I was with you until that. I don't think removing a few of the most infamous and hated leaders, as satisfying as it is, qualifies as regime change. We Iranians know better than that, right? The tentacles of the IRGC and its structure still exist and are still terrifying people 24/7 inside Iran, right?
No, because the symbol of hardness of Islamic Republic was Khamenei. Remember, everyone said until he's alive, there will be no change. That means there's no possibility of change. Why do I say that Islamic Republic is that there is an entity that still kills people, still, launches missiles and flies drones, and is a menace for the people and the region and the world. But Jian, take a look at the picture of IRGC soldiers, the armed forces that are there to kill people. They are so afraid. They sleep under the bridges so that they are safe from the drones. Is this the same Islamic Republic you and I knew 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when they were in the streets killing people? No, just 6 months ago. No.
Well, they're still in the streets. They're still in the streets. In fact, they're coming out every night.
They will be. They will be.
Yeah.
Look, all dictatorships are like this. They stay in power. Remember Ceausescu?
I do.
Remember?
I do.
He was on the balcony, on top of his game. He was giving a speech. One person shouted, "You're a liar." And that started it. It's always like that. It's always one bullet. It's always one word, one action that just snowballs into revolutions and change. That's how I see it. Not because this is what I desire. I do. That is my desired state. But obviously, I guess you and I both expect ourselves to use some reason and logic and, look at what we have in total, not parts of it. Let's not mistake posturing with the capacity to deliver on a claim.
Okay. Bijan, there is, by any metric, and putting aside any partisan feelings or any camp that anybody can be in, there's unquestionably only one person that millions of Iranians, both inside Iran and outside of Iran, have basically suggested de facto is the leader of the Iranian opposition, who should be the person to oversee a transition towards a secular democracy, towards a referendum.
Not de facto. They're calling his name.
Okay. So why, that would be Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Why has the Trump administration, or political leaders from around the world for that matter, Why is it not recognized, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, as the leader of the opposition? What is the problem there?
You know, if you asked me, should Trump endorse Prince Reza Pahlavi? My answer would be an emphatic no. Emphatic no. Why does Prince Reza Pahlavi need an endorsement from a foreigner to be accepted by the people of his own country who's calling his name and no other name? Why does he need the endorsement of President Trump? Of course.
Well, let's work through this. I'll answer that. I'll answer that. Because if there is a signal that the leaders of the world recognize this person that Iranians have been calling their leader as the leader of a credible opposition, then would it not kneecap all of those editorials, comments, media narratives that there's no opposition, that it's in disarray, that Mojtaba is going to lead Iran for the next 10 years, all of that stuff? I mean, would it not help sort of underscore and speed up this process?
Jian, again, there's another side to it that I invite you and viewers and listeners to please look at, and that is, who's writing those articles? How does that happen? You and I both know.
Yes.
None of these people are paid by the publication or the media that their words or videos appear. They are paid by somebody to do that, most likely. Sometimes it's all personal desire and they volunteer to write articles or make shows. But yeah, that's a good question to ask. However, imagine this. If President Trump, President of the United States, picks a person as the leader for Iran and supports him at this point, what's going to happen later? Jian, 74 years ago, something didn't happen, which was a coup d'etat from top to bottom. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, he'll be called a puppet, all of that. But isn't there a way to do it?
They're not going to make themselves responsible for the change and replacement. So it's natural that they would be so hesitant in walking back from the edge of that roof that they may fall from the other side of the roof. And let me just agree with you. I think they have. I think they've come out so strongly that, you know, the example that I use may make sense. I said to President Trump in a note and publicly on February 14th in Los Angeles, in front of, I don't know, many people, what I said is, Mr. President, imagine it's 1775 and a French military leader called Marquis de Lafayette is here to help the Americans, they were not Americans yet, but to fight against the greatest tyranny and biggest military force of George III. And he would have said, you know, I'm here to help you win against this massive enemy, but I'm not sure how I feel about your George Washington. I'm not sure if it's your right guy. What would you say? How would you look at that? People of Iran appreciate and welcome the support of all countries who, for their own benefit, obviously, future better relations, come to help them in getting back their freedom. But they don't want anybody to tell them who they should call as their leader or who they should call as their guide to take him to the ballot box. That's one. The other thing is, I don't believe President Trump completely pays attention. I'm sure he understands. Completely pays attention to the peculiarities of Iranian culture. Example, you've heard him talk about, well, I'll talk to the next Ayatollah. He takes it for granted that whoever is the top person in that country must be an Ayatollah. He thinks Ayatollah is a title that refers to the same as head of state. That's not the case. That's not the case. He is also unaware of, you know, intricacies inside, and he talks about people that are respectable, that are honorable. He's talking about a killer. He's talking about a smuggler. He's talking about a guy who got to where he got by spending opium and heroin money from the southeast of Iran traversing the country and getting out from the West. That's the person he's talking about. This is the most reasonable, honorable. So completely, I don't want the endorsement of
I think you make
Trump.
you make as is your style, a very profound and elegant point, and a smart one in terms of why Iranians shouldn't even want some sort of like overexcited endorsement of
But there's
a thing.
more.
But
There's more.
let me just real talk for a second.
Sure.
Isn't there a middle ground? I mean, really, like just bainemo. Isn't, in other words, if President Trump announced today, said, listen, I'm not endorsing anyone, that's for the Iranian people to decide, but I'm inviting Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi to the White House to have a meeting here and in front of the press here to explain some of his ideas of how the next 6 months could play out in the next couple of years, or don't you think that would be a good thing?
Well, I'm very cautious on that because, again, I say strongly, Prince Reza Pahlavi should not be asking for Trump's endorsement. If it appears that way, it would not be good. But if Trump decides to do something that's a smart thing to do, I think it's a smart thing to do for Trump to understand that victory he's looking for goes beyond his term of presidency. Must be a sustainable victory. He would have a greater legacy if he creates a sustainable peace in the Middle East by removing or helping to remove this criminal entity called Islamic Republic in Iran. I think it would be a great thing if it happens in that way. But Jian, if it appears that President Trump picked the leader for Iran, that's a bad idea. That's why I've been repeating in recent days one single message. If President Trump wants to get something meaningful out of all of this, it has to be, forget it. Don't try to, ask for complete elimination. They'll cheat. They'll lie. They'll hide something. They'll go into pretend they're dead, and then they come back. Ask for one thing. This is what I've been saying repeatedly. Ask them to set a date for a free, fair, transparent election process based on 4 principles announced by Prince Reza Pahlavi: territorial integrity of Iran, preservation of individual and equal rights, separation of religion and state, and the right to self-determination, which means a free and fair election. Based on these 4 principles, set a date. This is for Iranians, for people who make decisions. And I have to say something about who is making the decision today. But for them to announce this date, hostilities would end. It will give people of Iran what they want. And if their intentions are truly a reasonable, as you say, the middle ground, if there's something, this would be the middle ground. Announce a date certain to hold free, fair, transparent elections based on these 4 principles with not supervision, but with observation, observers who would be looking at this process, making sure it's done in a transparent, fair way for the people of Iran to choose whatever they want. That's what Prince Reza Pahlavi wants. I'm not speaking on his behalf.
No, I got you. I got you.
Permission nor the capacity. But
I got you.
That's what he wants. That's what I believe.
If we've been zooming out, let me just zoom in for a second at the Iranian community, and before I ask you a final question, something you said the last time you were with us here, which was actually before this war, is about a couple of months ago or a month and a half ago. And you talked about, with
Khamenei was alive last time.
Khamenei was alive. Yeah,
So
he was.
Now you may want to think again about whether Islamic Republic, as you knew it, is dead or not.
Okay, let me get to the point I was going to make, which is that you talked about with some personal sort of passion. You said you don't want to be calling. You said you're not comfortable with, or you think it's problematic for us in the diaspora to be calling Prince Reza Pahlavi king, because he said, "Don't call me king," and that we don't want to be putting that cart before the horse or sending in the wrong signals, etc. We should call him what he's said to call him, etc. Do you feel like I kind of feel like that? whether it's from the words of you or others who were making that case. I feel like that issue has kind of found its way to some kind of resolution in the diaspora, that we're seeing less of this reflexive king, 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 and more of a positive and progressive conversation about this is our leader. Do you feel that to be the case, or are you still concerned about that?
I do feel that Prince Reza Pahlavi is the sole person responsible for that shift. He has focused everyone's attention on four principles that are the four principles of this lion and sword revolution. I believe he has led that shift in thinking, and I also say that I have learned that Bijan, don't mix them all up together. There are people who really, truly, passionately love to see Prince Reza Pahlavi as their king.
Yes.
Who has the right to tell him to shut up and not say that? Nobody. Nobody has the right to tell him not to say that. What Prince Reza Pahlavi was saying is, look, don't put the cart before the horse. And he said it at USC. I'm not making that up. He said it exactly, and we repeated it. You see, when I say I follow him, I do follow him, meaning I can't say I follow him and then have my own ways.
I
And,
got you.
you know, I will be lost because if I follow him, it's for a reason, for these four principles that I see as the compass to take us to the ballot box. That's where I want to get to, where every Iranian can vote for what they want.
Okay, I think that's as close as we'll ever get you to a mea culpa. By the way, I think that was I was
Yes,
excited
yes,
for a
yes,
moment
yes.
there.
Yes, I would say, of course, they can say King Reza Pahlavi, Javid Shah, and of course, of course. However, I choose to follow him.
All right. Just because it's in the news so much over the last 48 hours, just curious to get your take on the possibility of the U.S. taking over Khark Island. Is that something that you've been thinking about? Is that something you have a position on?
Well, military experts would tell you that islands are very difficult to protect. Uh, the goal in any military operation is twofold: capture and hold. If you capture and can't hold, the exercise would be futile. So you have to be thinking about a capacity and the will to control. So Hark Island is very important. It's the terminal that makes oil sales in a meaningful possible, and it's a very strategic asset. Is it possible to take the island, hold it, and run an operation from that? It's one of the options. I neither pick it nor dismiss it. I would say it's one of the options. There are other options. There are other options.
Do you think it's a good idea?
There, Gian, there are other options to control the oil revenue, and those other options are being considered, and they will continue to develop as one of the items on the table. Remember, the table is set, so
Right.
that President Trump can pick anything he wants. So no option is eliminated.
You still
He's
sound
going all the way.
you still sound like a politician sometimes. You know that, right? You might be in private life, but um, uh, a final question. I'm going to actually see you in D.C. this
So you
weekend.
expect me to tell you that over the next 12 days, there's a specific plan that, if implemented, that the 5,000 expeditionary forces are going to be landing on Clark Island and doing exact operations.
That's
Is
why
that
we
what
bring you on. Of course. That's why we bring you on. You're the guy to tell us that. Yeah.
Well, I won't say that.
This weekend, Washington D.C. There's what I believe will be an historic demonstration. And right after we finish this conversation, I've got a panel of 4 people coming on who are organizing from different cities to come there. I'll be there, and from what I understand, you'll be there. Tell me what you hope to see from this big rally in Washington D.C. this Sunday.
Well, what I go there to say is, what part of this puzzle is so difficult to understand? You're doubting the people of Iran not wanting this regime? Look at them. They died for it. They took bullets to tell you they don't want this regime under any circumstances. Which part of that is hard to understand? And yes, we're being very direct because we're angry. We're upset because we don't understand. How come you don't understand that? Number one. Number two, when they were shouting Prince Reza Pahlavi's name, did you not hear that? Did you not see them shout his name to get shot and die? Is that not enough to tell you who they want to see as their leader from here to the ballot box and then decide what system they want? Which part of that you don't understand? Why do you say, oh, we're not going to pick anybody? No need for that. Just understand that this is what the people of Iran want. They appreciate your help, but don't pick their leader for them. It's their right. It's their responsibility. And I think this needs to be said. We also want to say that take a look at these four principles. Territorial integrity of Iran is important. You want to get close to the people of Iran. You want to go and build a very, very symbiotic, beneficial relationship, mutually beneficial relationship between the United States and the people of Iran. Get on their side. Get on their side. Instead of all of this, push the Islamic Republic, whoever is making a decision. And there's never been a government in that sense. There's always been a regime made out of a caliphate and a mafia. Who's making the decisions now? The mafia. That's my belief. Because there's never been a government. All these soldiers, just like toy soldiers on a piece of table game, moved around by the oligarchs and those who've always been the mafia. What they're trying to protect is their assets, the illicit assets that they have gained, and they want to hold on to it. That's all the game is. So this is a very important gathering. We want to say, yes, we follow the man who will take us from here to the ballot box. And don't be bothered by the title Prince. His father was a king, so we call him Prince Reza Pahlavi. That's it. I think it's important for the world to understand, against all of the publicity, against all of the lobbying, and Jian, I'm sure you see it every day. It's just very suspicious when you see people who understood all of these things 2-3 months ago, all of a sudden are coming back 180 degrees and I'm against the war, this, that, and what is it our business to go help Iranian people? And no, this cannot stand. And I think President Trump is determined. As we said, his goal is to remove this threat permanently. If there is one word that we should really, really latch on to understand what goes on in his mind, is the word permanently. When you want to do something, when you want to remove something permanently, there is a state that can be very easily forecasted to see the end of that. And we also remember what Hexet, Secretary of War, said. He said, no quarters, no quarter. That has a very specific meaning in the jargon of military and diplomacy.
Are you speaking on Sunday at the rally?
I'm sorry?
Are you speaking at the rally? Are you one of the speakers?
Oh, I don't know if I'm asked to speak. I will not. I would not. Have any objection to that. I'm always happy to do that. But if I'm asked to speak, of course, I would do that.
Bijan Kian, it's always a pleasure to have you on. It's always insightful, and I always appreciate you making the time. Merci, Bijan.
Good to be with you, and let's hope for the best and have faith that the people of Iran are going to be the winners, and I have that faith. I'm sure that's going to be light victory over darkness.
Thank you, sir. And as we said at the top, Nowruz Piruz to you.
Nowruz Piruz, Payande Iran.
Thank you. Khudafiz. This episode of Roqe is brought to you with the support of Avoca Chocolates. So in the last few weeks, I've been telling you how grateful we are that this small non-Iranian company in Toronto has stepped up to support Iranians in this time. Noni Fenby and her staff have been at our rallies, chanting our slogans, doing what they can to support those inside Iran. They've also made free Iran chocolates, with all the profits going to aid the Toronto demonstrations for a free Iran. Avoca has been making handmade artisanal chocolate in Toronto for over 30 years, family owned and operated. They have dedicated themselves to the art of making delicious treats, including truffles, ice cream, and gelato, made without compromise. Avoca has focused on high quality ingredients with fair trade chocolate, all made fresh daily in one of their 2 locations in East Toronto. If you are in Toronto, go visit one of their great chocolate shops and thank them for their support. And the free Iran bars are now available. They are top quality Belgian chocolate. They are each handmade and painted, with the profits which are being given to the Iranian community. If you cannot go in person, you can get the chocolates online at avocachocolates.com. avocachocolates.com. Thank you again for your support of Roqe and the Iranian people. Avoca. All right, this Sunday in Washington, D.C., at the call of Prince Reza Pahlavi, there will be a massive demonstration beginning at 1 p.m. outside the White House of Iranians in support of the Lion and Sun Revolution. Many of us are heading there from all parts of North America and the world. And I'm joined by 4 panelists who will be attending and are helping to organize. Let's get to the panel. Behnam Bayat is a world Taekwondo champion and a Toronto-based coach known for mentoring and developing athletes. He serves as the logistics coordinator for the Cyrus the Great organization and plays a key role in organizing major community events, including the Lion and Sun Nowruz Rally in D.C. on Sunday. He's joining us from Toronto. Joining us from New York, Andy Ayin Alem is an American-Iranian founder of the New Persian Times, a media brand based in New York, launched at the start of the Women Life Freedom movement. He is a content creator and has captured the 2024 Trump-Vance presidential campaign, and entrepreneur wishing to bridge the gap between America and the new Iran. Joining us from Washington, D.C., Mandana Khazrai is an Iranian singer-songwriter, originally from Kerman, now based in Maryland, a trained architect and student of traditional Persian vocal music. She has released over 20 songs in the past decade, writing much of her own lyrics while performing internationally and collaborating with renowned musicians. And Sergio Khadem has been a dedicated activist for freedom and justice regarding Iran for the past 9 years. During that time, he has been a cornerstone of his community, organizing crowds, events, activities to promote awareness and solidarity. He serves as the logistics and volunteer coordinator with the Cyrus the Great team. He is also joining us from Toronto. Hello to you all.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Jian.
Great to have you all on this program. Thank you for making the time. I think there's excitement about Sunday. There's curiosity about Sunday, and there's a lot of hope that what can come out of this demonstration. Andy, let me start with you in New York. What are you most hoping to see from this rally in D.C. on Sunday?
First of all, Jian, thank you so much for having me. My biggest hope is to see a very, very large crowd uniting under a single flag and under a single name. And the bigger the crowd, the better.
Any estimates, Andy, on what you think will be happening in D.C.?
It's hard to say because it's really hard to, I really don't want to make any predictions here, but I think with the help of Mr. Salar Ghodami from Toronto, he's been very good at rallying the people together. And the numbers in Toronto were very impressive during the Global Day of Action. So I'm very hopeful that the numbers will be very big this time.
Mandana, the last time I saw you was at a rally in D.C., and D.C. doesn't usually do the numbers like the hundreds of thousands that we've seen in Toronto and Munich and New York and L.A., etc. Talk to me about what you think is important about this rally on Sunday.
So about this rally, I think the Iranian abroad, regardless of political beliefs, we share the responsibility to be the voice of the people inside Iran. And we must, united, we must be the voice of the people in Iran. And we must show the free world that the Iranian people no longer wants the Islamic Republic. The questioning of what comes next will be determined by the people of Iran in a free and democratic future. And, the Islamic Republic has shut off the internet because they know the threat of their regime is the population of Iran itself. So it's very important for everybody, regardless of political opinion, political beliefs, to be there, be united, be the voice of Iranian inside Iran.
Behnam, tell me why a Washington on Sunday is important to you.
Okay, as you know, the day before we are gonna be there on Saturday. Some of the no war activists and no war something gathering they have there. That's important for us. We will be there in Sunday because of we want to this military intervention because it's a freedom, it's bring a freedom for Iranian people. It's not the war. We want to be there and be this voice.
Thank you. And Sergio, the last time I saw you were one of the folks organizing the massive rally here in Toronto on February 14th, that historic day with 500,000 people. Talk to me about what you believe the impact is of these major rallies. To those people, I put up a video earlier today on Instagram where I talked to a friend this morning who was kind of one of these people who's humming and hawing, you know, what do you believe the impact of a massive rally can have for Iranians around the world, if not inside Iran?
Well, as Iranians living abroad, it's our responsibility to be the voice of Iranian people inside Iran. We got to show uniteness, coming together and be their voice, and get the politicians to also get involved and try to create a momentum and basically advocate what's happening in Iran with the fascist regime of what they do to the innocent people.
Andy, do you believe that political leaders and you work in the media, do you believe that that it makes a difference when there's a massive rally like this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this war is multidimensional with many different fronts, and the information war, as you eloquently mentioned in your previous post, is a real thing. And I think it's important that with the evolution of our technology with AI, it's very easy to fabricate these types of videos where it can help and shape a false narrative. So the more authentic the content is, the more it lands with the people. And I think it's very important where there is a large united crowd from the diaspora from all across the world, all coming and uniting under a single thing. I really think it really helps break a stereotype that is in our culture that we cannot band together. And I think we're uniting together is breaking that stereotype in a positive and authentic way for the betterment of not just our culture, but from our home countries as well. So I just think it kind of kills multiple birds with one stone.
Behnam, talk to me about I know that you guys have been busy in the last few days organizing buses, trying to put together the conditions where people who can't just buy a flight to go to DC have a way to get there. Talk to me a little bit about that. How have you been organizing big crowds from Toronto going down to DC?
Yes, first of all, we just asking the people if they want to come, please come with their cars and the flights separately. If they cannot make it, we put a bus for them, and we put it 10 bus, and in the morning, Saturday and evening, in a few last days, we organized 500 people for putting in their bus. They already has their own group, and they are really kind. The people, they want to come and really cooperated with us.
What kind of enthusiasm have you felt from people? Like when you put out the call and said we're going to organize buses, etc., did you immediately get a response from the Toronto community?
Yes. Oh my God! I put it the form on a website on Cyrus the Great, and in the first hour, in 1 hour, I got more than 200 email Can you believe it? It's really, really for us the warm welcoming for doing this movement, and I'm really proud of them because they are really voice of uh, people of inside of Iran.
Sergio, a similar question to you. I mean, for those of us who've been going to protests and organizing in Toronto for many years, it feels different this time in terms of the level of commitment of people. That even when a demonstration is called for somewhere that's a 12-hour drive away or a 10-hour drive away, people are ready and okay, let me try and organize to be there. Talk to me about what you've seen.
Honestly, I can tell you what's different this time is having a leadership. Having Shahzadeh Reza Pahlavi as a leader of the team, it just brings everyone together. And you know what? I couldn't thank enough all the volunteers. I mean, Cyrus, the great team has about 1,000 volunteers that are cooperating and working together. The magnitude is huge. People are coming together, and I think this time it's in every way is different than anything that we did before. In terms of crowd, people coming up, people cooperating, working together, and I can see it happening this time. Honestly, this is amazing.
Mandana, you talked about whatever the different political ideas, let's all get together. And a lot of us, at least in a place like Toronto, we're seeing overall a great deal of unity. When you can get 500,000 people on the street for one rally and there isn't a lot of competing rallies, it's pretty impressive. Talk to me about how you might feel this is different this time.
I think it's different, because as someone previously mentioned, there's a leader this time, and so there's a war going on in our country, and this war has different sides, and people in Iran, again, no longer, they don't want Islamic Republic anymore, and we are done. People in Iran, they are done, and we all know the only goal that all of us have is to Islamic Republic to be gone forever. Doesn't matter Khamenei father, Khamenei son, Ghalibaf, whoever is a part of this regime. We don't want this regime at all. And I think this time is different because everybody with different political beliefs, they know that we must be united. Otherwise, there won't be any success to this.
Guys, let me ask you all a final question, which is that I think there's three elements to this demonstration on DC and the importance of it. One, in terms of the unity that we can feel with each other, the alignment, the enthusiasm that it gives us all being part of something together. Two, the outreach that it can have to political leaders, to media, to the broader community to see the kind of support and the kind of messaging we have. But three, the hope that this means something to those inside Iran who, through a blacked out internet and difficulty in communication, at least will get to see some videos or hear about this. Tell me from each of you, in your own words, what your message will be this Sunday in DC for people listening inside Iran. We'll start with you, Behnam, then Mandana, Sergio, and final word to you, Andy. Go ahead, Behnam.
Okay, we will be there, and I wanted to say to people of inside the Iran, we are your voice. If the government shut down the internet, we will be your voice. Don't worry, we are here until last of us.
Mandana?
So we will be there because all of us wants free Iran and want you to be free. So this is the goal for all of us. So again, doesn't matter, regardless of political beliefs, we will be there for you, united, together, hand in hand, and we will be your voice.
Sergio, the message this Sunday that you'll be taking for people inside Iran?
You share your pain. We support you. We want to be your voice, and we'll do whatever it takes, and we stand by your side.
And finally, you, Andy?
I think to echo what the Crown Prince have said is that he always mentioned that there is this transition from hope to belief. And I believe that if obviously we're going to be the voices of the people, of our brothers and sisters back home, But hopefully, the picture that I see with a large crowd in front of the White House, this can be that spark where the hope actually turns to belief, where things actually might change for the better.
Behnam, Andy, Sergio, Mandana, thank you all so much for making the time. See you Sunday. Merci.
Thank you,
Thank
Jian.
you for having us.
Khuda.
Thank you, Jian.
All right. Get ready. Washington, we're coming. We're descending from various places, including here in Toronto. Looking forward to being there. Looking forward to being at the rally. Looking forward to seeing you there if you can be there. I know there are rallies in solidarity of what's happening in Washington. Like if you can't get there, I know here in Toronto, for example, at the same time, there will be a demonstration at Queen's Park for those who can't make it to Washington but want to stand in solidarity. I think that's happening in a number of cities. But if there's any way you can make it down to Washington, D.C. for the sake of unity, for the sake of sending a message to the media, political leaders, the broader community, and for the sake of sending a message back to those people inside Iran that we're doing everything we can to support. We hope you guys are able to see us and hear us and know that we are with you. See you in Washington, D.C., 1 p.m. from the White House on Sunday, with hundreds of thousands of others. Thank you to Bijan Kian for joining us. If you have any comments or thoughts on that interview or the panel that we just had, by all means, you can email us at info@roqemedia.com, info@roqemedia.com, or post as you do on any of our platforms, on YouTube, on Telegram, on Apple Podcasts. We're also on Spotify and CastBox. And of course, you can find us on Instagram. This is full time for this edition of Roqe Today. Thank you to the core team who puts this show together twice a week right now during this Iran Rises series. Thank you to Roham Maher, Tina Farahi, and Paris Sanjarani. Thanks as well. A special thanks to our broader Roqe family, Smart Pega, Talented Anahita, Methodical Kaveh, Charming Kimia, and the Rising Kian for your help. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Look, if you've been listening to Roqe for a long time or watching and you're not actually a subscriber, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Give us a like, write us a good review. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. You can find us on Instagram at Roqe Media. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. And as ever, in the immortal words of Uncle Behrang, Mizun Bashi.